Winter House Lost and Found is a show I had in my house gallery a few years ago. When I worked in a zoo in the northern Czech Republic, we had a winter house for animals that would not survive the freezing winter in their outdoor exhibits. This was the starting point for my show. I gathered objects that were around my yard and brought them inside to a makeshift gallery room for a small exhibition for my neighbors. The sub-theme, Lost and Found, was tacked on because all of the sculptures are found objects, and they had to be cleaned up, fixed, and or reassembled. My favorite piece is Patina, which is a junk lawn deer I found down my street in a parking lot. It has lost its legs, antlers, and ears, and tail. But for me, it has such a classical look, like a fragment of a Greek sculpture. Polyphemus, named after the Cyclops blinded in the Odyssey by Ulysses and his men, is a propeller housing for an outdoor motorboat. I found it in another town, being tossed away with debris from a burned-down house. This also has a nice patina to it from sitting in the water. I love how the hydrodynamic design is also aerodynamic, so it has a very modern feel. The Oracles is an assembled piece. A local church asked me to speak to a youth group about trash art, so I made a small cart for hauling sculptures, and I loaded up what I had. I brought it to the church and spoke to the class about materials and the history of sculpture. One of the mothers was very impressed and enthusiastic about the talk, and she said she had something for me. By the time I walked back to my house, she had already gone home and brought an iron clock to my house. I knocked out all the rotten pieces and broken parts and kept the shell, which has a classical building look, like a museum. One thing you see a lot on trash bulk pickup days are old trophies. The figure in this piece came from the top of a swimming trophy. I love the combination. It is like a man of the future jumping out from the confines of the past. I had this image as a header on my Facebook page for the Museum of Peripheral Art, and the whole page got blocked because the image was tagged as pornographic. I was upset because it seemed like it was decided by some absurd computer robot. So I decided to put up an image that was actually quite sexual looking, but thought that it would not read the same to the gaze of an algorithm. And that is this picture. It is a piece called Medicine Man. It was assembled from a Polynesian-style wooden sculpture someone gave me, and a large rectal thermometer attached to the groin. This is a rock I found in the woods that was thrown away in a junk pile. It has borings in it, which I liked a lot. It looks like a sea mammal to me with a large snout. This is a sculpture of an African man that was left at my house too. It was kind of broken up. I put it back together and put different things in its hands. So here there's a cross, which is kind of a colonial comment. Sometimes I put a pencil in there or something else. This is a slingshot that my mother's father made for me when I was a kid. He made one for me and one for my brother, and I kept it all these years. It had a thick white rubber strap on the top, which dissolved, and what was left is this beautiful little twig that he had actually carved. It was probably one of the only things he ever made. This was a rocking chair that I found on the side of the road that was being thrown away. It was silver and covered with junk, and it was pretty gross. So I sanded it all down and painted it white, and it was missing one of the spindles, so I took a branch that had fallen from a tree outside my house and I put that in its place. This is a large spool for electrical wire or cable that I found on the side of a train track, and the pipe is from our house. Our house is 130 years old, and it was a pipe for part of the old Dutch oven in our kitchen that no longer exists. So just by balancing that on the top of the spool, it creates this canon look. This wasn't a found object, but I've included it. We had a piano. I got a piano for free and brought it home. It was a large stand-up piano, and it was always out of tune, and people always came over and played absurd little ditties on it, and I kind of got sick of it being a piano, so I tried to turn it into sculptural objects. And here you see I took out all the keys and hung them from a cherry tree in our backyard, and that was really elegant because when the wind blowed, the keys moved, and depending on the weather and how forcefully the keys moved, it kind of conjured up different songs in your head, different types of music. And this was the kind of the gem of the piano. I got rid of the whole piano, even the keys, after a while, and what was left was the harp. I cut the harp in half and kept this piece and painted it black, jet black. It weighs a few hundred pounds, but it has this playful look, like of a stencil, which I like a lot. It's different now. Now the wall is blue behind it and the harp is white. A lot of the things I found were carried on another cart, which I had made for my kids. And here are my two older kids when they were little. And we pulled this cart around town. I put them on the cart with books, and we go to the library or go to the woods with it. And when we had our third kid, the cart was already no more. So I ended up making a rickshaw for him. And this is from an old jogger, curtain rods, and a beach chair.